Well, good morning. It's 9 o'clock on Friday, so it's time for Coffee with Karl. I'm Karl from TRIDEC, and today it's my pleasure to welcome two very distinguished guests to our program to kick off 2021. On my right is Lori Mattson, the President and CEO of the Tri-Cities Regional Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, Lori.
Good morning.
You know, it's funny, I just rattled off your title and everything, and I didn't even have to practice it. And I'm like, wow, maybe I'm finally, it's almost been a year. Maybe I've got to get in the swing of how things go around here. And of course, Michael Novakovich, the President and CEO of Visit Tri-Cities. That's a little bit shorter and a little bit easier. So Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Karl. How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Great. Thanks.
Great, thanks.
Well, we've been on before, and although we've been on meetings together and obviously virtual meetings, we haven't really convened since the new year. So I'm looking forward to a great conversation today. We'll kick off with our little coffee ritual. I've got the old original when we did the branding thing. I don't know exactly when that was, but the Tri-Cities shared logo that we all kind of use iterations of. It's just, kind of this color. It doesn't have all the colors and stuff in it, but I thought it was representative of our partnership and our building. And I think that's what we'll have a chance to talk about today. So that's my pretty canned but basic coffee story.
Love it.
Let's go.
I have that same cup, Karl. I don't have it today, but I have the same cup. And today my cup says, I work hard so my dog will have a better life. And anybody that knows me knows I have a Labradoodle named Huck, and he's like my child. We're empty nesters, but this dog has become our child. So I know Michael can relate, but it's a crazy thing to be an empty nester and have a dog baby that you're so crazy about. But
well, the times that I've met Huck, I can attest that you're fulfilling the mug. You're rocking it.
I'm sure he jumped all over you and smiled for you.
Awesome.
He smiles. People don't know this, but he actually smiles. So
he's a really good and friendly dog. I like Huck.
Thanks.
Michael, what do you got for a mug or coffee or?
So strong and courageous. Nice. It's actually scripture, Joshua 1:9. At the same time, several years ago, I had a couple of people, a family member, a friend, give me this exact same mug. But be strong, be courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you everywhere you go. Something for me to lean into last year. And should 2021 look at 2020 and say, hold my beer, I'm going to be leaning in again. But I think as leaders, this is in this environment, we have to be strong, certainly, but we have to be courageous if we're going to successfully lead teams. So that's where it's at for me.
That's awesome. That's and really well summed up. I want to just say for our guests on Zoom, if you have any questions for us today, you can ask the question. We'll use the question and answer feature at the bottom. If you're on social media, please push questions in the comment section, and then we will get through those. And I don't think we'll have any problem filling an hour in our discussion. We never do. And I would like to get some questions. And then I do have to also give the disclaimer, our kids are doing virtual school. So if I drop off, if one of you could just pick up wherever I left off and just keep the conversation going, that would be great.
That's crazy. What grades are your kids in?
They are in 7th and 8th.
Okay,
yeah.
Right.
So they're in middle school. Yeah. And we're in the Kennewick School District, and maybe I'll just kick off our conversation this morning. But it's been almost a month since 1 year ago, you guys both hosted me around Tri-Cities when I came to town to interview for this job that I was really blessed to be able to be chosen for. But I think back to that conversation, and it really started our relationship. And I really have such great memories of just our discussion in the car, driving around and how did these things work, talking about things we could do together. And I think looking back on that year together, we've really been able to do some good things together. And, from our perspective, I really look forward to doing more together, because I think, literally we're right in the same building together. And even when we're working virtually and remotely, we still have this relationship where, to bring our strengths and our boards and our members together for better things in the Tri-Cities is great opportunity. So just wanted to kind of have that walk down memory lane and kind of kick us off. And if you guys want to kind of give a recap of 2020, and it can be brief. I think we all wrote articles for Journal of Business and talked about 2020. And in mine, I was just saying it's like a country song. The best view of 2020 is in the rear view mirror, man. Like we're past it now. We got to keep moving forward. But do you want to kick us off with some thoughts or observations, or just kind of recap on 2020? Like what did we learn, or what are some significant outcomes that came out of it? And I'm not going to pick who goes first, but just jump in there.
You first, Lori.
Oh, sure. Well, thanks, Michael. Yeah, I was just, I was remembering also that it really was a year, and it's interesting that we're sitting here and we're all in our homes today, and we haven't really had too many in-person meetings. Every now and then we'll be in the building for something, and we visit in the lobby or something, or we did a PPE drive and we're there for official business. But for the most part, I think it's really actually incredible that we've worked remotely. We haven't had the ability to just walk across the hall or run into each other. And I do feel like this year was really a great year for our three organizations to really, start to partner better. And so I think it's, I know I've really enjoyed working with both of you. I knew when I've had the opportunity to work with Michael for a couple of years, and it's been great. And Karl, I said this before, but I just completely think that the board made the right decision bringing you on. And who knew this was going to happen, though? But I think overall the whole region is gonna benefit. And I think if we can do this virtually, imagine what we're going to be able to do when we're really all able and our teams are in there together, and we can. And because I feel like this year we've just kind of been on our heels, all of us, with our own organizations and stuff. So we haven't really been able to to think too much about what we can do in the future. We've all just been kind of responding to what's been going on. And so once that opportunity is available to us, I think that we have a really great foundation to really start moving things. So
that's awesome.
Michael?
Yeah, Karl, the memory lane piece, that's when we took our tour around town with you, Lori and I were super excited and shared that with the selection committee. We're like, Karl's going to be a wonderful partner and do damage in a positive way. So we're excited, decided to have you as a partner. And, and when we look at what we did this last year, some really cool things collaboratively. When we look at Tri-Cities Open and Safe, of course, we were working with the Benton Franklin Health District, brought others into that. And then along with that, and our teams were invested in that and working together. There was a lot of across the hall collaboration going on. But then through the Municipality Advisory Council, where we have all the cities in Benton and Franklin counties themselves, we've got electeds and administrators in the health district, the three of our organizations represented by each of us. These advancements we've been able to do through the phases, working with the state, and then working, independently through our own organizations with coalitions across the state and making meaningful advancements for the community benefits, been outstanding. But another big piece for me when I look back this last year, though, is just how fortunate and blessed I am with my team. So I have this incredibly talented, I know we all do, I'm sure you share the sentiment, but incredibly talented, innovative, community-minded, and very, very flexible. They really embraced other duties as assigned. And we did some really, really cool and innovative things this year. And it was a great opportunity to work cross-functionally, and the team just excelled. And my board's been super supportive, as I'm sure yours have as well. So it's just been, in the middle of all this crazy, it was a good year.
Yeah.
No, definitely. And I think, Michael, you bring up a great point. I remember the conversation that we had, and I think I'll just say, looking back on 2020, the frustrating thing that we're, probably still in, but hey, we're in a new year. So now we're looking forward and being even more optimistic, is that so many unknowns. And, like when we would get together and try to predict, I think, just the initial intent of TC Open and Safe, Tri-Cities Open and Safe was, how can we help businesses reopen, doing it safely, meeting the guidelines, give them some clarity on the local health district rules and standards and stuff, and then try to help them with some marketing to let people know that, hey, we're open, and we want you to come in and use our service, our business, to reopen. We didn't know back then that it wasn't just going to be a V-shaped, we use that analogy for economic recovery, but it's like the same thing for opening, right? We just like, okay, we're closed now, we gut it out, then we'll just be open. It's really been this up and down. And I think that's been the hard thing to manage for all of us with our teams, especially for small business owners. I can't even imagine what our members and the businesses out in Tri-Cities are going through right now. But you guys want to talk a little bit about that? Just, not that it's been challenging, but, looking forward, are there some more things that we can partner on, like Tri-Cities Open and Safe, to try to have that focus on the most affected businesses that are out there? I was encouraged this last round of grants that Department of Commerce rolled out, working in Washington 3, they called it, was focused on restaurants, hospitality, gyms, the ones that were really closed and affected by the governor's latest order. We just got the notice the other day, but about $3 million more will be coming to Benton and Franklin County. And it's really focused on those businesses. When you look through them, there's a lot of them that are really focused. But just, you guys want to, have this open conversation, I guess, about, what are some more things that we can try to do to be able to, help those businesses as much as possible, realizing it's literally day to day. Like, again, we might think like, hey, we're coming out of this. Okay, we're going to get there. Other things may come up that we don't see, but any thoughts or ideas around that concept?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I think one of the things I love is that we've had these conversations that happen outside of some of the meetings that we all sit in on how do we leverage the power of the 3 organizations in our networks. And I think we can continue to do that. Tri-Cities Open and Safe was a great example. One of the things that I love that members may not, so all 3 of us have, we're membership-based organization, other revenue streams, of course, but when a member signs up for these divine set of benefits, or even the corporate sponsors, there's something specific. We say, these are the things we're going to do. And people are looking, whether it's, through us, if they're looking for a marketing presence, and we go out Pacific Northwest and across the nation, we're promoting these kinds of things. Maybe that's the be all end all for them, or with either one of your organizations, those specifics. Something that probably wasn't on everyone's minds as much is the value of advocacy, and how we've done it and formed coalitions locally, but then worked on the state level, either with these larger coalitions, whether it's the Municipality Advisory Council, or for us, I know you each had similar endeavors. We worked with a group of decision makers across the state directly with the governor's office and his policy office and labor and industries and the Department of Health on some really specific industry initiatives, and had great success there. So I hope that members recognize that, they have a specific need to reach out to us, that we're here and we've got a voice and we've got an ear often where we can make some meaningful change.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great
idea. As you were kind of teeing this up, Karl, I was just thinking about the conversation we had yesterday on that municipalities call, and just really how, we are, we're really thankful that we have a plan, a new plan, but it is also, it's going to be really tough, as we were talking yesterday. Every Friday these metrics will be reviewed, so these businesses, you talk about this V. I mean, this literally could be, phase 1, phase 2, phase 1, phase 2. I mean, I don't think it's going to be quite like that, but I think it could be, and because we've already seen that. We had. We were closed, and then it was this phase 1, and then modified phase 1, and we barely got to, and then we got dialed back down again. And it's really hard for businesses to plan for that, for their employees, for these restaurants with ordering their food and in dealing with. I'm on the AWB has a rebound and recovery task force, and we had a meeting yesterday as well, and there was a person on there that owns a restaurant just talking about, like all the food rot, and that they order this inventory, and how can they even plan? And they're working with limited funds right now anyways. And so I think, that as Michael said, really, we really need to be really strong advocates. And I think we all have been, but I think that is really where our power comes. And that if there's something more we should really put some concerted effort towards, it's really kind of trying to peel this onion and figuring out how can we best utilize our voices and our partners. And we're yesterday on this call talking about these other 5 counties and how the county commissioners and the city managers and So, they said we're gonna rise and fall now with all these other 5 counties. So it's so beyond our control. It's beyond the business owner's control. And I'm sure every one of those regions, people like us are having these conversations. And I think that it's something we absolutely have to just hunker down and figure out how we're going to work together, and how we're going to get to phase 2, stay at phase 2, and then push for what's next after phase 2, what's phase 3, what's phase 4, 5, 6, whatever they are.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I was thinking I could try to explain it, but I might ask Michael, who I'm going to guess is our local expert on this new plan that the governor has on looking at regions. And maybe you could, Michael, can you give a shot at explaining now what this latest iteration of opening, especially for restaurants and gyms and stuff that have been closed, to get to a reopening phase, and how we're going to work regionally, and then maybe we can jump into a conversation about that, about our peer organizations in those regions, because that's a good point, Lori, is that the cities and counties are going to start reaching out and saying, how do we convene this group? And it's a great idea. We've talked about it a little bit, but I should be on the phone to, Jonathan in Yakima and my peer in Walla Walla and have those conversations. But can you give us an overview, Michael? Just, I don't know how much everybody understands, so why don't you give it a shot?
Wow, I'll give it a shot. Okay. So we have two phases with more to come. Of course, we're in phase 1. Weekly, there's going to be an assessment with 4 key metrics. So we're going to be looking at the capacity within our hospitals, the healthcare system, of course, our positive case counts. And now you put me on the spot, Karl. I don't have everything right in front of me. I'm trying to picture this graphic. It'll come to me here as I'm spieling. But we look down to it. There is, as we've seen throughout this, there's a lot of things open to interpretation. We're actually working on some things with one of our partners right now that try to understand some specifics as it relates to this. So certainly some significant challenges that, until we either get our case counts in where we're seeing improvements, which it sounds like we had kind of plateaued, which is good news. And I think the vaccine, as it starts to roll out further, we're going to see greater improvements, which will be dynamite. Some of the things that we need for these businesses that are most impacted. So when we talk about the hospitality industry, just devastated, right? So this would include the restaurants, but seeing gyms close down or the inability to go to any of these types of attractions. So many places that really require people through the doors to utilize their services if they're going to be successful. It's going to take us getting to that phase 2 to make that happen, which is really going to take concerted community effort. But as you mentioned, Karl, it's going to take us working with our counterparts. We were talking yesterday. So an interesting thing for Visit Tri-Cities this last year, and we're doing it again this year with support of our county partners in the cities and working with the health district, is healthcare messaging. So here we've got the tourism agency and we're doing healthcare messaging. But the conversation we had yesterday at that municipality call was, how can we spread that out? So we're doing that, but have continuity of messaging and be able to provide that throughout our region, so we're all on the same page doing the same things. And I think there's good opportunity for our organizations to do that, so we can hit those key metrics. And then when we make that advancement to the move, if we can hit all 4 of those key metrics, if any of them backslide, if 2 of them backslide, then we go back to the previous phase. So where Lori was talking about the on-off switch or the dial, where restaurants might be open, closed, and how do you begin to manage that? That is going to be a really difficult situation. So I'm hopeful we can get into a maintenance mode. As Lori said, get there and stay there. Absolutely. So I don't know that was comprehensive, because I still can't think of those other 2 metrics. I
think that was great. Lori, if you have anything to add, I think on the metrics, the big change is that we're not just looking at Benton and Franklin together through our health district and the outcomes, and then can we get someplace. Now it's going to be this region. And so, statistically, I got to think like it's going to be about the same, because it seems like our rates have been fairly similar to like Yakima's, but then I know Walla Walla's rate has been lower, and Columbia County, of course, its rates like hardly anything, but also they have no population. So it's like, as they look at these metrics, it's going to be the population versus the infection rate and the spread rate and all those other things. So I think from that perspective, it's interesting, because it'll be a little bit different, and I mean, we've all talked, we've all worked on together campaigns and separate on like, how do we get people to just follow the guidelines? Don't gather together, wear masks, social distance, wash your hands, all the things, because I think every day we see folks that are choosing not to, and of course that's their right, but it's the reason why people are still getting sick. It's I think the science is coming more clear every day, and it's a challenge because everybody's tired of it, and everybody has their beliefs and their views and stuff, and so it's hard to, Michael, you guys have done so much on the messaging. How do you change that message to be more meaningful? How do you strike a chord with folks to do that? Because there's been so many iterations of it. Thinking about other people, thinking about your grandparents, thinking about, because it really is a spread of a disease, but I think it's still just a challenge to really, get folks to change, and everybody wants to go back to normal, but it's one of those things, man. We gotta gut it out. You gotta stick to the rules to get better, to come out of it, so that we can go back to normal for sure.
Yeah. And the COVID fatigue's real. In terms of even the messaging, people become tone deaf because we've heard it and we're tired. We've got fatigue certainly with our healthcare workers and the burdens that are placed upon them, and it's really going to take all of us coming together and doing some things that we probably don't want to continue to do if we're going to be successful in this place. Tracy did provide the metrics. Thank you so much, Tracy. But decreasing trend in 2-week rate of case count per 100,000, decreasing trend in 2-week rate of new hospital admissions, ICU occupancy less than 90%, and then test positivity less than 10%. So yeah, we know what we're shooting for.
Exactly.
A lot of work to do.
Well, we did just get a question from social media that's exactly what we're talking about. So this one, I'll just read it. The Tri-Cities is likely really a microcosm of the rest of the country, meaning that we are divided as any others, with businesses losing ground, COVID's rearing its ugly head once again, and citizens having strong social and political feelings on all sides of the spectrum. What roles do you see for your 3 organizations in helping to bring us together and moving forward in a positive direction? I think it's a tough question. I think it's one that we've been faced with as a community and as a state and as a country since March. I don't think there's any easy answers, but anybody want to pitch in on this one? It's the question, right, that we're all facing.
And it's Lori, if you have something, I don't want to jump in there. No,
it's fine. Yeah, I'll go next. You're good.
It's a tough one, because I'll tell you, Karl, and I think everybody's probably walking in this. I see it as this pendulum. I can tell you it doesn't matter what we message or what we do. There's a spectrum of responses to it. And it's really hard because we're trying to find good middle ground that's a moderate, reasonable approach to things. But what we'll get with any kind of messaging or any endeavors, and this goes all the way back to even when we're promoting curbside business at the front end of Tri-Cities Open and Safe, we'll get some people that praise it, see the value in that. We're preserving jobs, businesses, our local economy. And then there's the pendulum will swing the other way from people that think that it's out of line or ridiculous because there's a pandemic going on. And this has been with every endeavor. And then somewhere in there's some people that are saying it's not enough. Just open us up, 100%, and that's what we need to advocate for. And I think we've all taken a real reasonable approach to this. We've got to manage this situation, and we've got to be good stewards of people's health and the community health and do this right. So I think in terms of what we can do, particularly like with our own messaging as we're working with the health district, is we're working to put not a Pollyanna, but a positive spin on this. And I think in any challenging situation, if we choose to, we can find the opportunity in it. So if we could take a look at this and where are our opportunities for us, just the organizations, we've had a greater opportunity to partner, collaborate, and discover resources, I think, within each of the 3. I think even as individuals, we'll find more of that in our community and maybe discover, maybe it's new restaurants as you're exploring curbside and what your options are, right? So I think there's some great things that'll come from that. But I think we're going to have to, 1, make some sacrifice, and then 2, really embrace working together.
Yeah, I agree. I think the question is really probably the best question or the best comment that sums up everything we've been trying to do these last 9 months is to certainly consider public health and not be irresponsible, but also, we're business organizations. And so, we're member based. We're obviously, as individuals, our teams, our boards are business people. So, we as organizations value business and value the economy. We also value health. And so it's really hard not to get stuck in one box. And I think we've all really tried to take that, as Karl said, kind of that middle road. But, I think that we have to follow what is being given to us. But I think that as advocates, we also need to really, sit down and roll up our sleeves and look at other options, because I think we found this out all along when we do, like we did this thing, we had some fitness organizations contacting us throughout the summer, just asking for our help. And so, we put a coalition together and we started working with the governor's office, and we made a really strong case for, just let them try and, give them the same opportunity that another business has, but just let them try. And so, it worked. They, shortly after, I think it was right after Labor Day, it was when all the smoke came in, like early September, the governor lifted that. But then, of course, right before the holidays, everything closed down again. So they were barely open. But, I think that's, I hear that a lot now as well, of just that, that businesses really just want to be given that opportunity to try, to also to earn public confidence. And that if you as a business owner can demonstrate that you're following guidelines, that your staff is following guidelines, and that you as a business have a healthy place, then, why can't we let them, get open or open at a greater capacity? So, there does seem to be a double standard between small businesses and larger businesses, or capacity. And so I think that while we certainly have to follow it, I think we can spend some energy diving into it and working with other partners to see if there's a way that we could, help advocate for, higher capacity or more time, or, whatever some of these restrictions are.
Well, and that's a really great point. Well said, Lori. I think, maybe that's this concept now that we are this region, as far as our COVID metrics, and I'm thinking, like I said before, of our peers in the other counties, to reach out to them to say, hey, what can we all do together to do that? And the advocacy role is a good one. And those relationships that I think there's always opportunities to strengthen them, just like we've strengthened our relationships over time, that, maybe there could be, even after COVID, something like that. Because I think, being new, and Lori, you said really nice things about me. And I know, we got the Lewiston connection. So we're probably just, back in the Bengals on that one. I appreciate it. But
you weren't actually ever a Bengal. I was.
I was born there, and then we moved away for 50 years, and then I came back for a year and a half. So, but there's still, there's that.
We're tight. We're totally tight.
But, but I think of other things even after COVID, to build that advocacy base for our peers, in our surrounding counties. Because I think of the Tri-Cities Legislative Council that I remember right after I started in February, Lori, I saw you and Stephanie out in the parking lot, and you guys had just come back from the Tri-Cities Ledge Council, Olympia Day, and you guys had some ideas about, hey, how we should take a shot at kind of making some changes in the Legislative Council, and you guys really championed that and led that, and I think that not being a part of it before, but I think we've got a really good position, and I think to expand that, so both in the COVID recovery phases, but then also maybe to think regionally, add some voices to the things that are really important to us, even legislatively, because I think that's something, again, being new and coming down the river last year, I think that that's something that we can all work on together. And I know you guys have really, really strong ties with different organizations and to Olympia, but I just think there's a great opportunity now, how can we change the perception of Olympia and then folks on the West Side of, Tri-Cities and the Mid-Columbia region, right? Because I think a lot of them just think of like, well, there's Walla Walla with the wine country, and they, miss out and forget about all of our great wineries that they drive right through that they could be stopping at. And obviously they have their own perception of the Hanford mission and, things like that. But I just think that of that as an example is like, maybe there's things that we're doing in COVID and looking regionally in this opportunity that we could then leverage out of COVID to do even more to kind of meet some of those goals.
One of the, as you're talking about this, I thought I've shared this, our team talks about this, our board talks about this, is that, we've worked with organizations this year that we've never really worked with before. We've never really, our paths haven't really collided. And one of the best examples you guys will remember is when, we were on these calls with the municipalities, and there was all this conversation about daycare and childcare. And so, we kept hearing these people on the calls saying, if the child care centers aren't ready, if the schools don't open, how can people go back to work? So what did we do? The three of us scheduled some calls, just the three of us, and said, well, let's start a conversation with some of our child care organizations in the Tri-Cities. So we got Brian from the Boys and Girls Club, and we got the YMCA and a couple others. And so next thing you know, there's 8 or 9 of us on a call. And then next thing you know, the counties are providing grant money to help save these childcare. And I don't know that anybody really knows that. And it's like one of these things that seemed really hard to do, but like we actually did it, and then it got done, and now we're on to the next thing. But I think if we take that same idea of just saying, let's just schedule a call. Let's just have a meeting with these people and start talking about, if you remember, one of the first things was, is this really a problem? And not only was it a problem, it was a big problem, and they were all siloed. And so when we call the meeting, all of a sudden everybody just kind of pops up out of their silos and realizes that there might be a lifeboat to grab onto. So, I absolutely think that when we pop up and we really look around us, that we can really do great things. I mean, I'm just really passionate about that in general. Like, I look at my Tri, I think about every time you get a group of people together that are passionate about something, you can get something done. And so it's just popping up out of our silos and reaching across. So whether now it's these other 5 counties or whatever, it just absolutely drives me completely.
And I love that analogy, but unfortunately it made me think of whack-a-mole for some reason. So I think something when we pop up out of our silos, we got to make sure we don't get hit.
Right. Well, sometimes that happens, but you got to pop back up again, try it again. Right?
Yeah. No, that's such a great example, Lori. And there's so many of them. We, we had several with some statewide coalitions, and then some local ones too that led to some things. Even the over the river air show with Waterfall is we had large events, a group that got together, and then we're working with this other group on some initiatives across the state, and then this tied back into the MAC and work we were doing with the governor's office. So some really cool opportunities there. But I think for all 3 of our organizations, just working with the health district,
right.
I mean, that was like a new space, and they'd even said they didn't have a connection to the business community, and they really needed to. That partnership has been very, very valuable. Just we're working with the counties in ways that we hadn't before. So that level of collaboration and partnership has just been amplified, or we've got, we're doing new.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, let's shift into 2021 and maybe just go around and talk about some of, if you got a prediction, if you have, your plan that you're either implementing or finalizing, or, what do you guys see coming out of 21, or what are some things? And we did have another question about that was kind of similar to the last one, but like how can we interface even more, the I think great things that we've done already, and make sure that Tri-Cities comes out of this even stronger than we went into. But any either predictions or your plans or some big things that you see coming up? And we'll start with Lori this time.
Sure. Well, gosh, I I would never make a prediction, but I wish I had a crystal ball, but I don't. But what I do know is that that we are going to come out of this, and that we're going to come out of it better. We'll be more equipped for things that we've been in a crisis, and people, us and others, all these people we've been working with, business owners, are being more resilient. Our teams are resilient. So I think people are really having to dig deep and be more creative and out of the box thinking. I think that's really the big lesson for us in 2020 was, I feel like our organization has already been an out of the box kind of thinking organization already, and yours are as well. But I think that this just really kind of put us to the test, and that we're just going to continue to kind of go on this path. There's a lot of exciting things happening right now that are just we're not going to be doing the same things we normally do the first quarter of a year, where we're really focused on really just being ready and having the bandwidth to jump in and do the things that need to be done. So we're trying to kind of remove some things that takes too much time and too much energy to do, so that we can really be ready to hop in and really be a resource. But there are really exciting things happening. You both know, because you're both involved in it. But throughout this, well, interesting, late last February, right before all this happened, we kicked off our My Tri councils. We have our 6 My Tri councils, and we had a great meeting at the end of February, and everyone was whooping and hollering, and everybody was all excited. And then all of a sudden mid-March comes around, and everybody's really scrambling. But I have to give our regional affairs committee, which you're both a part of, as well as all of the councils, so much credit. They kind of cocoon for a few months, but by summer, everybody, I keep using this pop their head up analogy again, but our councils are alive and flourishing. We have projects. All 6 of our councils have projects that they're working on. So the volunteers are doing what we're doing. They're not meeting in person, but they're continuing to meet. We've got exciting things happening in ag, education. We've got our big project there. We're partnering with WSU Tri-Cities and CBC and AWB. We're launching a intern portal. We're a pilot area for us in Spokane are piloting this, so businesses all across the state can post their intern opportunities, and students can go find these opportunities as well. And so so there are things that are happening regardless of this resistance. People are still finding time to volunteer and to put their efforts towards some of these projects. I know, Karl, you're involved in the Prosperity Council, and Michael, you're involved in the Life Council, and there's both great projects in those councils as well. So I think that as these things continue to work out, there'll be new opportunities for us in these 6 areas, which is really part of this whole 10-year vision of doing big things that none of us could do by ourselves, but we could do them together. And in addition to just being ready to respond and to not just respond, but to drive some ways to get out of this and to help our businesses, and to just have the bandwidth to be able to really focus on those things.
That's great. Well said. Thank you. Yeah. Michael, what do you got coming up for 21? Any predictions, plan, all of the above?
All of the above. Well, I think like Lori, I'll shy away from the predictions. Yeah. But at the front end of this thing, we've got a really innovative culture, and while we were dealing with the task at hand, the more tactical things that we had to do today and tomorrow, we were focusing on business recovery, and the team has a couple of really cool things teed up that'll be significant, that'll happen later this year. I guess maybe that would be a prediction. We're going to be out of this and be able to do a couple of these larger scale events that'll put the Tri-Cities on a map in a large way. One of them happens to be TRIDEC, Travel Bloggers Exchange. We'll have 400 to 600 travel writers in town, and they're going to light up the Tri-Cities. It's between 5 and 20 years worth of travel writer content that happens in one big punch, and it continues out for a couple of years. So that'll be huge. We're working on something else really big that we're hoping to bookend that event with, which will be incredible and give us great exposure, which is cool. But for us, one of the things that was really cool is I was looking back, and our industry has a study called Destination Next. It's a future study. And the strategies, the 25 strategies they had listed out, these are done pre-COVID. Our team was already, so strategies, they were forward looking. Our team was already doing 24 of the 25, and the 24th one it just didn't make sense for us at the time. They weren't going to redo this study until this year, but what they did, because everybody had to pivot during COVID, they redid the study in July, and then they did it again in December. And I was just looking at the December study. Again, it's strategies where people are planning to go, what they're planning to do. The top 10, we're already doing them. So I'm super excited. Part of it has to do with this collaboration and community investment, and really for organizations like ours that are outside the Tri-Cities is where we operate. Actually taking the talents and the resources we have and really focusing them inward. What we do is for the benefit of the community always, but you don't see us here as much. And that was a big part of it. And that collaboration and partnership was huge. For us though, some of these other strategies that we were already deploying, they're already in the works and you're going to see roll out this year, was embracing the machine learning, AI. We've got a full website. Our website's being, a new website's being built that'll launch probably July. It has AI features in it, which is super cool. This fall, we launched what's essentially a city pass. It's by a platform called Bandwango. We started out with a wine pass, but you can expect to see other type passes. It's gamification, and you stop in. You're essentially collecting points in a way to be entered to win gift cards or whatever it might be. But we'll highlight restaurants and whether it's distilleries and wineries and attractions and all these different amenities, which are super cool. We're doing a lot of touchless technologies. We invested in VR a while back. Now we have 2 platforms up that allow virtual tours. So both for our meeting planners that weren't able to come into our community, this could be tournaments. We sell sports and meetings across the U.S. They can actually see our infrastructure, but the amenities, the restaurants, the wineries, all these things that make the Tri-Cities what it is, they can do all this virtually. I think our community will enjoy it too, because they'll be able to have these bird's eye views and then zoom in and check out maybe some things they didn't even know were here. So we're super excited about that. And then probably the final piece on the digital frontier for us is we licensed a product called C-Source, and it's data analytics. So we're going to have a deeper understanding of who's coming into our community, how long are they here, where are they going, and where are they spending their money, helping us put a finer point on who we're messaging to and how we're going about doing it. So the end outcome will be greater economic impact for everybody, the benefit of all Tri-Citians.
That's awesome. And
good stuff, Michael.
Yeah, totally. And I am a little bit disappointed you didn't talk about claymation, because I thought, that will we see more claymation in 2021, Michael? That's my question.
I think we will. We've actually grown our video suite and digital capabilities, so we'll be doing a lot more with that. But we're actually going to do a lot more with these animated puppets, the claymation. So expect to see more of that. I will tell you, Karl, I saw the TRIDEC Christmas card, and I didn't know you had pugs. And I was looking at that, and Krista said, "That's a whole lot of pugs." Chris is my marketing director. Right. And I thought immediately, I don't know if we have any Led Zeppelin fans, but I'm a big music fan. There's one of them. So I'm going to write a parody for you to Led Zeppelin's "Whole Lot of Love," but it's actually "Whole Lot of Pugs." So stay tuned.
Well, the irony there, this is Frankie, and he was taking a nap, so he's a little bit, he was our original pug. And so we had one pug, he was a rescue pug, and then we had 2 pugs, and we had 2 rescue pugs, and then actually in between Christmas and New Year's, we got 2 more, so now we have 4 pugs. So,
gosh, I thought you had 3. You have 4.
I have 4. Wow. Well, in the Christmas card, we only had 2. So, okay. Next year on the Christmas card, and maybe if I'm ever in a cool video called "Whole Lot of Pugs," I'm going to have to carry 4 pugs around, but yeah. That's awesome, Michael. And I got to say, your claymation and the video work that you guys have done is incredible, and it's awesome. And the chances that Lori and I have had to be in some of those videos, to try to get some community messaging going, it's a great opportunity. So that's really cool.
We'll be sure
we did have one question that I think is pertinent to where we're going outside of pugs and whack-a-mole and stuff. But are you able to, or are any of us able to track businesses who are in trouble, and what are you seeing in the community? Maybe just amongst our membership and our, people we talk to, like, what are we seeing as far as businesses out there? And I might just kick it off. And I think, we had a chance to work with both counties and West Richland on some CARES Act grants. And I think what we really learned with small businesses that we interfaced with through that grant process was everybody's different. There's I don't think that there's any big commonality out there, because just like as people, we're all different. The way that we run our business, our experience, our training, our education, all these things are different, and it's very different. Obviously, with this latest governor orders, we know there's huge impacts in hospitality, restaurants, gyms, physical but I think that's one thing that we've learned, that, and we're talking about, and same thing, like, how can we work together to help businesses? I think there is an opportunity to help businesses, get some support, get some training, Laura, you guys have great programs that you guys do. And obviously in the past, we've at least given an office to and tried to support the Small Business Development Center and SCORE and things like that. But I think that's one thing that we've seen in this last year is, like, there's no commonalities, because some businesses are going to survive no matter what, and they're going to figure out a way to pivot, and pivot's an overused term, I know, but they're going to figure it out. Other businesses, even in normal times, are going to struggle and stuff. So I think that I'll just kick it off with that. But are you guys, are you tracking anything, or do you have any takeaways from this year that, looking forward to 2021?
Well, we have probably three things that are probably worth noting. We partnered with Franklin County and dispersed about $600,000 worth of grant funds, and had, I forget the number right now, but we had 600,000 to distribute. And I think the applications we got were totaled, the need was over close to $2 million or something. I've probably got that wrong, but there's certainly a huge need for funding. So I think as organizations, we need to continue to advocate for some of this funding. We also have Stephanie. You mentioned Stephanie, but our Government Regional Affairs Director runs our rapid response line, and so she takes calls on her cell phone from her house. People can call her anytime and ask questions if they're looking for information on resources available. And right now we have, and maybe I should have it, or Tracy can maybe find it, or we can send it out later. But we do have a survey. Our local government affairs committee is running a kind of a member questionnaire right now, asking this exact question, so that as we move into the legislative session, as we begin really ramping up our advocacy, that we do have a sense of what the needs are. We do have one thing too, just a side note here. It's not really a side note, but we are, you mentioned the Small Business Development Center. We're a PTAC center as well, Procurement Technical Assistance Center. We've had a PTAC counselor in our office for over 10 years. And so she helps work with businesses to get contracts with government organizations. And interestingly enough, this year has just been booming. She's wonderful. She does a great job, but she just can't keep up with the people that are reaching out. And again, they're out of the box thinking. They're thinking, well, if I can't do my normal business, who else could I do business with? So they're contacting her to get counseling, to find out if they can apply for government contracts. And so far this year, or last year, I think it was over $25 million in businesses. And we have a 7-county. It's our 6. It's kind of interesting. It's the 6 counties that we're in with the COVID counties, and one more. But we serve a 7-county area. And then you mentioned some of our education programs, Karl. We do have an Ask the Experts program. Yesterday, interestingly enough, we had a kind of a maintaining your mental health through this, and we had a record attendance on that. We had some people in the healthcare field, because I think we all, maybe when we closed down, we thought this was going to last for a month or two, and then we thought, well, it'll be fall. And then I think the holidays were really hard because businesses were closed down even more. And so I think, a lot of people are suffering from depression and so that was, that's one thing that we could do as well. And that took place yesterday. And there's the recording of that is on our website.
Well, that's great.
So it's really interesting. I mean, it's not one thing. It's like, I feel like there's all these little things that we're all trying to respond to just as good as we can. I'll be interested to see, hopefully we get great response from our survey and that gives us more insight. We're calling members and getting information as well. So
that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, for us, it's similar to Lori, a lot of different endeavors. So two of the sales teams, when we look at meetings, conventions, and sports, we sell into the future. So we sell 1 to 5 years out. So the teams that continue to work, conversations have changed. But again, embracing innovation and technology, we've done some really cool broadcasts where we've been able to bring together decision makers in a forum, provide them really good information, got great feedback on some of these virtual events that we've hosted. So we continue to do that, continues to build for the future. For our partners that are really struggling here locally, we've been working to shine a light on them. Really, and this started long before COVID, but changing that thought that there's nowhere to eat and there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
The things to do, a lot of it's taken on an outdoor flavor in this current environment, but there's plenty of places to eat. So finding new opportunities to showcase all of our partners. It's not just the restaurants, but there's so many people, whether it's craft beverages or points in between, and continuing to advocate. And we work on the state level regularly. We have some endeavors going on right now. As you might imagine, our hotels and the large venues like the Three Rivers Convention Center or the Hapo Center, essentially idle. So we're working on some endeavors right now that under the current phasing would hopefully bring business back in. So we're a strong advocate there. For our hotel partners, this is a really difficult season where we can't say, come one, come all, but we're working on endeavors to support them. And probably one of the biggest things that we've done that relates to all of our members, and it was one of the things that was of particular interest to me when we partnered with the counties for funding and the health district for healthcare communications, is the idea that if we get this right, if we can preserve community health, which we need to do, we can get back to business and supporting everybody that's investing in Visit Tri-Cities and everybody that benefits from the work that we do. So we're going to keep hitting the gas on that as much as possible. See if we can't bring this thing back around and get back to doing life in the Tri like we do.
That's awesome. I don't have a prediction. I might just add to that thought, though. We're extremely bullish on the opportunities coming up in this year, and I'll just say, like on the business attraction work that we do and working with different partners on bringing in companies, a lot of activity out there in, like food processing and agriculture related industries that are interested in some pretty big projects that are coming to town, and really optimistic about those. Lori, you talked about MyTri and, the Energy Council and Energy Northwest with their advanced reactor announcement kind of in the fall last year. There's going to be a ton of new nuclear work that's going to happen right here in the Tri-Cities for the next 7 years. And just, when you get some of the undersecretaries of the Department of Energy saying that the reason that we picked 2 of these proposals out of many that were out there was really because you guys have Energy Northwest. You're in a state that has a carbon emission standard. And so, both of the selections that they picked partnered with Energy Northwest. Like that's huge, to building our base and what's going on. I think just looking forward to that, when you look at the last recession that we have, you compare Tri-Cities to a lot of other economies and communities around, we didn't see the effects to the greater degree. And then when the stimulus program came out, Tri-Cities got a really good share of that through some federal programs, and that helped us, kind of even recover faster. And I think we're optimistic about that same thing happening now as we reconvene the new Congress and have a different administration in the White House, that there's going to be great opportunities to, align some of those programs with our local efforts to get that. And obviously the grant programs and help for small businesses and local governments, I think we're real optimistic about that too, to try to offset some of the losses that we've all seen. So, hopefully those things can be kind of that leverage or that springboard that the Tri-Cities economy which actually, when you look at some of the numbers, hasn't slowed down in aggregate that much. Through different time periods last year, we actually added employment. That's not to downplay the impact on the businesses that we've been talking about. Obviously, huge, impacts there, and totally empathic for the businesses and the people that have been affected. But at the same time, there's still some really good things going on. So I think we're, all the things you guys talked about, really, really awesome. And, we're down to 3 minutes. Why don't we do two things? One is tell a story about our favorite Zoom call or Teams meeting when something kind of funny or happened. We've all been through thousands of them now. So something like that. And then if you guys want to make a closing statement or something, but it's great to see you virtually, and you guys have, going back to a year ago when we drove around and you introduced me to the Tri-Cities. Great relationship building, and I appreciate both of you guys very much, and look forward to some great things coming up in the next year. So let's kick it off, and this time I think it's Michael's turn. We'll just start with Michael.
Oh, okay. So I'll start with favorite Zoom call experience, and I've seen some interesting things that I know what we all have. I loved it. I was in the middle of it was a statewide coalition, and I don't know if I can do this, but I saw something like this going on. And somebody on the call, I'm going to change the name here to protect the innocent. Somebody's like, Jennifer. And all of a sudden, the person stops moving, and she's like, what? And somebody asked, what are you doing? She's like, oh my gosh, I thought I had my camera off. I'm getting my steps in. So I guess get it where you can, folks. In terms of just closing thoughts, I think, we've seen people get innovative on how they can do food service delivery, for instance, is a great example, but we've seen it in so many places. So it's these are challenging times in a lot of ways, but I would encourage everybody, you get kind of blindsided by some of this, but stop, take a look at this and ask yourself, where's the opportunity in this thing? And then embrace, stretch, and grow, and do something crazy cool. And if you're looking for a partner in that crazy cool, give us a call. That might just be right up our alley.
That's awesome. Thanks, Michael. Lori, do you have a favorite Zoom or?
Sure. Well, my favorite Zoom was just fairly recent, right before the holidays. We did we always do, like you guys do, I'm sure as well, kind of a Christmas party or something for our team. So we did ours one afternoon. We did it virtually. We everybody got a Grubhub gift certificate, and we all ordered lunch and had it delivered at the same time. And I went around the night before and delivered boxes of stuff, and everybody had something to wear on their head, and we played games. And the most fun was I did this thing where we had a scavenger hunt, an indoor, so everyone was in their homes, and then I would tell everybody to go get a certain thing. And it was the funniest thing to watch your team, and say, for instance, one of the things was a pickle. And so I would say a pickle. And then, 7 people get up, and you can see them, they're like, okay, and then they go run, and then they run back, and they're holding the pickle or something, and it was just really fun, and I enjoyed that. Again, you talk about, you both talked about your teams, and ours is no different. They've worked really hard and been very quick to respond to things, and sacrificed a lot this year, and learned to work from home, and all that stuff with kids and health, and all that stuff is just really hard. And I know it's 10 o'clock. My closing thing is really just I really want businesses and business owners to know that all of us are there for them, and that while they can't walk in our door and come talk to us right now, I think that I would just encourage them to reach out to us, and just know that we're all, we're here. I sit here all day long, all week long, and we have cell phones, and I'm easy to reach, as you are as well. And just to let people know that if there's something we should be doing that we're not thinking of, to just reach out to us. We might not be able to do it, but that we all care. And just like that call with the healthcare workers or the healthcare providers, some request could really spark something, really big that we haven't thought of. So just reach out to us. I think we're all here.
Totally agree. And that's a great closing statement too. I just quickly on the Zoom call, we were on a nationwide webinar with different communities from around the country, and there were some speakers from Washington, D.C. And this one lady, it was her turn to talk, and she was the main, speaker. Well, she had like a water leak in her house or something, and the plumber was in the background, and the guy just starts beating on the wall or, pulling a pipe out or something. And she's in, like this. It was like, it was happening right behind her. And, everybody's kind of like, oh, what's going on? And she just like gets up and just starts talking to the guy like, I'm on a call, with the whole nation right now. Can you come back in a couple minutes or something? I mean, it was really like, oh, you kind of feel for her, but like, what else was she going to do? It was great. Well, we've gone over time as I knew we probably would, but, thank you both for your time today. And like I said before, thanks for your time going back to showing me around, and thanks for your partnership. I just look forward to us and our teams, doing more stuff together and really focusing on our small businesses and making sure that the Tri-Cities comes out of this even stronger than we went into it. So thank you both. Look forward to a great 2021. And I'm sure we'll see you around on the next time we're on a Zoom call or something. So thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Karl, for the opportunity. It's good to see you both.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Great. Appreciate you both.
Thank you. Likewise.
Okay. Thanks.